All right, well, welcome everyone. Members of the public are advised that the meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the live stream recording will be made publicly available on YouTube and Council's website. Nillumbik Shire Council respectfully acknowledges the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners of the country on which Nillumbik is located, and we value the significance of the Wurundjeri people's history as essential to the unique character of the Shire. We pay tribute to all First Nations people living in Nillumbik, give respect to elders past, present, and future, and extend that respect to all First Nations people. We respect the enduring strength of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and acknowledge the ongoing impacts of past trauma and injustices from colonial invasion, massacres, and genocide committed against First Nations people. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people hold a deep and ongoing connection to this place. We value the distinctive place of our First Nations people in both Nillumbik and Australia's identity, from their cultural heritage and care of the land and waterways to their ongoing contributions in many fields, including academia, agriculture, art, economics, law, sport, and politics. And now Councillor Perkins will read the Good Governance Pledge.
Thank you. As As councillors, we are mindful of our civic responsibilities and obligations. We pledge to take them seriously and to carry them out with diligence and integrity. We know the decisions we take will affect people and the environment of Nillumbik now and into the future. We undertake, therefore, to make sound and principled decisions of lasting value in a spirit of fairness and for the good of all. We also pledge to serve the needs and well-being of the community and the environment in an open and honest manner and to the best of our abilities.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. We will now have a prayer from Pastor John Graham, the community pastor at Uni Hill Church in Bundoora. Pastor John Graham is a community pastor at Uni Hill Church in Bundoora. He has been on staff for nearly 7 years and oversees pastoral care, which includes a food relief program feeding about 60 families per week through the Hope Care. The Uni Hill Church's vision is to restore, raise up and release people into their God-given purpose. They partner with Nillumbik, Whittlesea and Banyule councils, as many of their recipients come from these areas. John and his family were directly involved in relief work with Black Saturday bushfire survivors for 3 years, which resulted in producing a film called Rising from the Ashes and publishing a book called Hell on the Doorstep. Both were designed to be a voice for the unheard, to empower people and provide hope. He would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you that serve our community, of which his family are a part, living in Diamond Creek. And so thank you to Pastor John.
Thank you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the leadership you've put in place across our council. We ask for your guidance, wisdom and blessing over these discussions, decisions and outcomes which impact our community across Nillumbik. May you bless the councillors, their families and loved ones as they seek to govern us well. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor John. We have no apologies tonight. Are there any conflicts of interest, councillors? No conflicts of interest. We do have some condolences to read out. The first is for Doug Orford. We're deeply saddened to hear of the recent passing of longtime Nillumbik resident Doug Orford. Doug was a life member of the Eltham District Historical Society, and his family resided in the district since the 1850s. Doug was actively involved in the Society over many years and in many ways, including as a committee member and vice president. Doug and his wife Gwen assisted the Society to continue to develop as a not-for-profit group intent on promoting and preserving the local history of the Eltham District. His significant work with assisting to establish their valued local history centre helped to develop their home base and supported the continued growth of the Society. Doug's local knowledge, suggestions, and family connections were highly valued. Until recent times, he continued to regularly attend their collections team workshops, providing insights and historical information about photographs and Society records. On behalf of Nillumbik Shire Council, we pass on our condolences to Doug's family and friends. We also have a condolence for Pam Lawson. We're also deeply saddened to hear of the recent passing of Pam Lawson, who was a wonderful advocate for Hurstbridge and its history. She was a member of Friends of Nillumbik, Friends of Hurstbridge, and Hurstbridge Local History Group. In 2003, she was a founding member of what would become the Combined Historical Societies of Nillumbik Network. And in 2015, this group amalgamated to become the Yarra Plenty Heritage Group. Pam hosted one of the first meetings at Bridges in Hurstbridge. Pam was a local historian who actively worked to share local stories and was instrumental in writing and publishing with the Hurstbridge Local History Group, among many of her projects. One of her greatest achievements was her work on Hurstbridge's history book, Cooker on the Wattle. She was also instrumental in the publication of the Hurstbridge Roundabout. As an artist, Pam tutored art workshops at Living and Learning Panton Hill for many years. She was also active at Allwood House in Hurstbridge and was included in the Celebrating Nillumbik Women 2008 to 2013 publication. On behalf of Nillumbik Shire Council, we pass on our condolences to Pam's family and friends. The next item is the confirmation of the minutes, so I will look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion that Council 1 confirms the minutes of the Council meeting and confidential Council meeting held on Tuesday the 25th of June 2024 as per attachments 1 and 2, and 2 resolves that the confidential Council meeting minutes as per attachment 2 remains confidential in accordance with section 3(1)(a) and F of the Local Government Act 2020.
Happy to second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Payne, and thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne? Councillor Eyre? Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is petitions, and we do have one petition, expand and improve facilities at Hurstbridge Dog Park. So I will look for a motion. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move the motion that 1, Council receives and notes the expand and improve facilities at Hurstbridge Dog Park petition requesting improvements at the Hurstbridge Dog Park in accordance with the Governance Rule meeting procedure. 2, refers this petition to the Chief Operating Officer for investigation and response. And 3, notes that officers will advise the petition organiser of the outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a long time coming. I've been trying to get something happening here since I was first on council. So the time has come. I'm sure it's going to be a bit of an election issue as well. Out of all of the dog parks in Nillumbik, it's basically just a paddock with a couple of lovely bog holes, mind you, and a couple of trees and 1, maybe 2 seats, that's it. We've got the old Pony Club grounds, which can be fenced off. There's no planning issues about replacing the old fence that was taken out, so we can put a new fence in there. It's not going to take millions and millions of dollars. We're talking about maybe 5 figures, not 6 or 7. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get this happening with a new council on board and get their support. It's not just the urban dogs that deserve a dog park. All of the rural areas out my way in Sugarloaf and Bunjil deserve a dog park as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I've had people from the Hurstbridge area contact me about the need to improve the Hurstbridge Dog Park as well. So I'm happy to support this petition and look forward to council officers working with the community to see what we can do to improve this area. It does sound like it's very easy just to expand the space and, you know, very simple to add in some chairs and fence and just some amenity because, you know, we are very connected to animals in this area. We're connected to being outside. We know the benefits of, you know, being able to have spaces with our pets, but also the social benefit that comes from being able to mix with other people. I've seen the benefits being a dog owner myself now, having a dog last Easter, and it's wonderful to have pets, and it's not very great, actually, I'm sorry, I'm not misspeaking there, it's not great when you don't have places that you can take them where you feel comfortable and safe, particularly when you've got young dogs or smaller dogs and you need to be able to let them off lead and you need a fenced space to be able to do that. So I'm supportive of the community in putting this petition forward and look forward to council being able to assist in an appropriate way.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. We do have a number of questions from the gallery. And our first question is from Natalie Alessio. Is Natalie with us today? She's not, but we will read the question nonetheless. Question 1, why are Nillumbik using a preference-based system for kinder allocation when places aren't allocated in a preferential way? And the response is, Nillumbik preschool places are allocated in the first instance by a priority of access system. In the situation that the demand for one preschool exceeds the supply of places, a preferential placement process is then offered. What this means, Nillumbik provides the opportunity and recommends that, at the time of registering, families identify 3 preschools that they would be happy to send their children to in order of their preference. This is to provide the family a higher chance of receiving a preschool offer. In the situation that a family's first preference preschool is oversubscribed, they will then be offered their second preference if a place exists at that service. The same is applied if the second preference is not available. As part of this preferential process, families can accept a place at one of their lower preferred preschools but stay on the waiting list for their first preference. This ensures if a position becomes available at their first preference, they are still on the waiting list for a spot. Whilst 3 preferences are requested from families at the time of registration, there are families that choose to put only 1 preference down when applying. This can limit their chance of a place when their preschool of choice is oversubscribed. Question 2. Can council prioritise fixing the kinder allocation process so siblings are granted places at the same kinder, as well as implementing a zoning area so residents are given preference for the closest kinder to their residence in order to provide continuity of community and connection between kinder and school, as it causes great distress to families who are unable to be accommodated? The response is, Nillumbik Shire Council's preschool central registration priority of access was designed to meet the Department of Education's central registration and enrolment scheme guidelines to ensure the allocation of preschool places is fair and equitable. The current process of allocation of places ensures that families who have children attending a preschool in the same year are allocated the same preschool. Currently, preschools have the autonomy to develop their own program and timetable. This means that preschools operate differently to each other, and families often need to choose preschools who offer a program that best suits the need of the child and family circumstances. The closest preschool to where they reside is not always going to meet their child or family needs. We have a question from Rebecca Goddard. Is Rebecca in the room? We will provide the answer nonetheless. Question 1. The rollout of free kinder has seen an overwhelming demand for the sessional kindergartens in Nillumbik, so much so that some families miss out on a place entirely. The state government has generous grants supporting the rollout for free kindergarten. What infrastructure plans does the council have to increase the number and capacity of sessional kindergartens in Nillumbik to meet increasing demand? And the response is, the Department of Education offers a range of facility improvement and capacity grants. Since the rollout of funded 3-year-old kindergarten, the Department of Education has been using population and preschool supply data to determine which local government areas they direct their capacity to. When assessing the need for preschool places, the Department of Education considers the total number of licensed places across both the long day care setting and the standalone preschools. Due to the availability of places in long day care settings across Nillumbik and many of the standalone preschools choosing to operate at a lower capacity than they are licensed for, the Department of Education has determined there is no supply shortage of places in Nillumbik, and therefore we are not a high priority for capacity funding. Whilst Council has been successful attaining funding for facility improvements, recent applications to the Department of Education for capacity funding have been unsuccessful. With the most recent state government announcement of 30 hours of 4-year-old kindergarten due to be fully implemented in Nillumbik in 2036, Council is continuing to work with the Department of Education to gain in-principle agreement for future funding. And question 2. Many Nillumbik sessional kindergartens rely on parent volunteers as members of the Committee of Management required for these services to operate. This unpaid labour is mostly performed by women or mothers for the benefit of the broader kindergarten community. What measures are being taken to ensure that families with a history of volunteering and prior connections to a kindergarten are given due consideration in the enrolment process? And the response is, it is acknowledged that there is a significant contribution by the community to the operation of the early years service across Nillumbik. Preschool is funded by the Victorian State Government and is considered a universal service, meaning that all families and children will have access to quality education regardless of income or other barriers. Council allocates preschool places according to the guidelines set by the Department of Education. Children should not be disadvantaged in accessing preschool places based on their family capacity or capability to participate in preschool management functions. We have a question from Lana North. Is Lana with us today? We will read that nonetheless. My third child is going to kinder next year, and I submitted 3 preferences for a placement through the council application process. We didn't receive any offer at all in the first round of placement offers, despite being a resident and ratepayer in Nillumbik and having my older 2 children attend 4-year-old kinder at Eltham Woods Preschool in the past. I know of other families who have had the same experience in the past. Question 1. Is Council willing to make changes to the Nillumbik kindergarten allocation process to include consideration of residential proximity to kindergartens and prior connection, i.e. past sibling enrolments, to kindergartens? And the response is, Council officers are reviewing all feedback received from the allocation process and are benchmarking the priority of access applied across other local government areas. We will undertake an evaluation at the end of the offer process to ensure that all children eligible to attend kindergarten have fair and equitable access to places. Question 2. Is Council obliged to offer a kindergarten placement to all Nillumbik residents who apply to attend kindergarten at a Nillumbik preschool? Council is not obliged to offer a kindergarten place to all Nillumbik residents who apply. Council is funded by the state government to manage the allocation process of preschool places. Council does this within the guidelines set by the state and within the constraints of supply and demand across the Shire. With the implementation of free kindergarten and the extension of hours to the programs, more families are seeking to attend programs at standalone kindergartens as opposed to long daycare services. Council does not determine the number of places available at services, and with many services choosing to operate with less places than their licence allows them to, there are currently not enough places at standalone preschools for the demand. And we also have a question from Mina Gill, who is here with us today. Welcome, Mina. Question 1. On the 25th of June, Nillumbik Council received our petition, Nillumbik Shire Call for Solidarity with Palestine, which was signed by 430 community members. When can we expect to see the requests of this petition become resolutions that are acted upon by Council? And the response is, Council understands the importance of this matter and our officers are currently reviewing the petition. As it is under review, Council cannot yet comment on whether the requests in the petition will become resolutions. It is important to note that the process to undertake the necessary work, consider the petition, and brief councillors can take time. This work is balanced against our current planned actions and priorities. Our officers are diligently working on a response and will brief Council in due course. And question 2, can Council please confirm that the upcoming election period also caretaker period, begins on the 17th of September as per the governance rule election period policy. And the response is that yes, the election period commences at 12 p.m. on the 17th of September 2024. And that is all of the questions from the gallery. The next item is the reports of advisory committees, and I will look for a motion. Councillor Egan?
Happy to move the motion. Mayor, sorry, I've just lost it now. That council notes the minutes of the advisory committee meetings reported in attachment 1.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Eyre? Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. This is something that we bring up occasionally when we've had so many committee meetings. It's a pro forma thing, but it just shows everybody in the gallery and at home what the meetings that we're all, when we all get together and have these meetings. I'm involved in the Panton Hill Bushland Reserve System User Group, which was held on the 20th of June, and various other councillors are involved in the other various committee meetings that have been held. So this is just noting the minutes of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. And Councillor Eyre? Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. The next item is the Nillumbik Climate Action Plan Year 2 Annual Performance Report and Year 3 Implementation Plan. And so I'll look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion, Mayor Ramcharan. The recommendation that Council 1 receives and notes the Nillumbik Climate Action Plan 2023-24 Annual Performance Report as per attachments 1 and 2, and 2 endorses the Climate Action Plan Year 3 Implementation Plan 2024-25 as per attachment 3.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Duffy. Councillor Payne.
Yes, this is part of the process of committing to climate action. In 2022, we declared a climate emergency. I recall there was some robust discussion in the chamber about that, but we made it through. And Council declared a climate emergency, committing to a climate emergency response and proactively integrate climate change mitigation and adaptation into all Council actions. And that's been reflected over the past few years in our implementation plans, the business as usual reports across Council, our net zero emissions roadmap, and various other strategies and plans across Council. So I commend this and thank the councillors for making a good decision at the time.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I will also agree with Councillor Payne in this regard. You know, the Climate Action Plan is certainly one of the key highlights of our time as councillors in this term, and the community are doing an enormous job on their own part as well. Council officers have put together some great actions, and it's really good to see what's been achieved so far and the plan ahead. So I'd just like to say thank you and well done to our community for, you know, espousing that a climate emergency is here, it is real, and that people of all ages are doing things to make a difference so that we can achieve the targets, both on personal levels, at home, at schools, in families and in businesses. And then with council, we're able to achieve what we're able to achieve as a business. So I am grateful for the officers for the work that they're doing, and would like to give a big shout out to those staff that work at Edendale Farm for the way that they are embracing the climate action hub that's taking place at Edendale Farm, and the work that they do with Indigenous plants, and the role that greening and planting and community planting has in tackling climate change. And just a big shout out and a thank you to all of those people who attended the annual Nillumbik Plant a Tree Day down at the Challenger Street Reserve on Sunday. It was fabulous to have another 1,000 plants go into that wetland, and to have people from all walks of our community come and assist council in greening that space. So I look forward to what's to come, and this climate action plan is going to continue for many years to come. So I look forward to seeing the results of the future. I'll stop speaking because I think I'm rattling on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to support what's already been said. Very proud that we were able to declare a climate emergency, and really pleased that we're now looking to endorse our Year 3 implementation plan, which is great. And some of the things that have come from this is the Friends of groups that have been ongoing and have started and in particular the Aqueduct Trail. We've got a new Friends of the Aqueduct Trail group, which had a planting. 400 plants were put in a few weeks ago. So many wonderful things are coming from this plan. So I'm happy to endorse this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll just speak briefly on this one. I just wanted to reflect on how far we've come. When this group of councillors came in, we had a climate action plan that was very, very much lacking in ambition. And thanks to the work of the councillors in this room and the officers in our environment team who conducted many workshops with us, they could tell it was something that we were particularly interested in. And so we were heavily involved in drafting the new plan. There was a lot of, as Councillor Payne said, robust debate around targets, around declaring a climate emergency, around a whole range of aspects of the plan. And I think what we ended up with was aspirational and brave, and it's something that we endorsed as a council. And look at how far we've come with it. We've funded it every year since we endorsed it, and we're actually making progress towards achieving those targets as a council, and also to supporting our community to achieve a net zero target of 2035. Will we reach net zero? Will the community reach net zero by 2035? I still expect we'll need help from the state government to make that happen. We can't do it on our own, but we're working towards it, and we've adopted that target effectively as an advocacy position, as well as an imperative for action for this organisation. So I'd like to congratulate the team for the great work that they have done on this plan since we endorsed it, and the great work that is planned for Year 3, and the much more great work that will come over the coming years, the next council and the council after it. This work will continue for a long time, and of course the community as well, who are really who have been amazing in coming along and taking part in our climate programs, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of that down the track. And with that, I will put this one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the Nillumbik Biodiversity Strategy, adoption of strategy. And I'll look for a
I'm
motion,
happy to
Councillor
move that.
Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor.
We do have a slight edit to that motion, Councillor Duffy, if you'd like to read
That's
that
with
out.
the amendment, yes. So I'll read that out. So the recommendation, this motion that I'm happy to move, is that council notes that there is an administrative error in section 1, page 2, which states 70% of Nillumbik residents are acting to protect our natural environment by 2034, and that will be replaced with the correct target of 70% of Nillumbik residents care for nature by 2034, to be consistent with section 4.2, our overarching goals, targets and indicators. The remainder of the motion is as per the agenda. Point 2, adopts the Nillumbik Biodiversity Strategy dated 2024 to 2034 as in attachment 1, and notes the strategy, subject to graphic design, will be made available on council's website. Point 3, receives a 1-year implementation plan for 2024-2025 for endorsement at the first council meeting of the new term of council. The new council term. 4, receives an annual update on the implementation of the biodiversity strategy, and that a summary will be provided to the community on council's website and in council's annual report.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Nillumbik Shire Council and the residents of Nillumbik value the Shire's biodiversity, and we appreciate the intrinsic importance and the interconnection with health and wellbeing of our community that this has. We acknowledge that the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung have a long ongoing connection to the land, the waters, the plants and animals in Nillumbik, and as traditional owners, they've got cultural knowledge to care for country, and we are all invited to have a collective obligation to care and work together to keep our natural environment healthy. This biodiversity strategy is not council's first. You know, Nillumbik is a green wedge zone, so we're zoned such to be the lungs of Melbourne as it grows, and there's a mix of human with nature. Often when we have this mix of humans with nature, we see that nature comes off second best. So this Nillumbik biodiversity strategy replaces the previous strategy of 2012, and also there was an invasive weeds action plan as well. And with this strategy, we're looking 10 years into the future with goals to 2023, with annual key implementation actions to be planned and reported on going into the future. So we're setting a foundation with this council, and it will be the work of future councils and the ongoing work of council officers to deliver on this in conjunction with the community. Community input has been received in 2023 and 2024, with a number of people speaking passionately here in this chamber, sharing their views at the planning and consultation meeting that happened in May. We all get excited when we see kangaroos in local paddocks, echidnas in our backyards and in our playgrounds, and a platypus sighting in the Diamond Creek here and there. I love this time particularly of year when the wattle is in bloom. I love that walking along the roadsides, you can discover a chocolate lily unexpectedly. There's so much to biodiversity in our Shire. I don't want to go into all of that, but what I do want to do is just point out a couple of the goals of this plan. The community can go through and read this when it is all available on the website, but just to point out the first goal is looking at leadership and advocacy. This is really important, and you don't have to be a badge to be a leader. You don't have to be a councillor to be a leader. You can be anyone in the community to take a leadership position on biodiversity and climate. One of the things in particular I'd like to point out is that one action that council will do is on council-owned and managed land. Council will be determining where there are opportunities for new or replacement plantings in parks, reserves, activity centres and along the urban streets, and implement a long-term planting and tree management program. We look further into some of the other areas. There's a focus area on people and partnerships to help us work and enjoy nature. There's a focus on species and habitat enhancement as well. There's a focus on mitigating threatening processes and impacts. We've seen the foxes, the rabbits, and even the deer in Nillumbik. So let's try and reduce that in programs as we can with the money that is being put forward to support the biodiversity plan. In the overarching goals, we have a biodiversity goal of Nillumbik having a healthy biodiversity. The target is to achieve a net gain in the overall extent, connectivity and condition of habitat by 2034. In particular, I'm very interested in tree canopy, and we're going to be measuring that every 4 years. The target here is not numeric, it's actually to have no net loss. When we're looking at the monitoring of species, there's a goal in there as well that's looking at sightings of particular species like the powerful owl, the scarlet robin, and even the superb lyrebird, gang cockatoos. There are lots of animals and plants that get us excited in Nillumbik. Edendale Farm, as a plant nursery, you know, there's a target of 80,000 plants per year, including 50% for local revegetation programs. I think these are really admirable goals and targets, and I look forward to the actions to come through over the next 10 years with this biodiversity strategy. I'll encourage the community to have a read, but more importantly, to get involved. So to do what you can in your way to protect the plants and animals of Nillumbik as we live here and enjoy this very special part of Melbourne. And we live here because we choose to live here. We've chosen Nillumbik because of these natural assets, and we're all wanting to ensure they're protected. With that, I'll close off and just say thank you to officers, thank you to the community for the work that you've done in putting this strategy together, and look forward to seeing how it rolls out.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan?
Thank you. Very hard to top all of that, so I will just agree. I will make one comment, though, that the biodiversity is very fit and well in my part of town, judging by the 200 kangaroos, the 500 deer, the 27 foxes and the thousands of rabbits. So we are doing a good job.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? I'll speak briefly on this one as well. I think the thousands of kangaroos, hundreds of deers, many foxes and rabbits is more deer than kangaroos. Yes, that's probably not so good for biodiversity. And yes, of course, and the vast number of kangaroos is wonderful to see, but biodiversity is about all the species, and just having thousands and thousands of kangaroos isn't biodiversity when we lose habitat for vegetation and for other smaller animals. Biodiversity is a wonderful thing, and it's fascinating to think about what actually is included within biodiversity. Fungi that live under the soil are part of the biodiversity. Insects, plants, animals, both on the ground and in the air. We've got birds. We've got our waterways, the fish living in our waterways. Biodiversity encompasses so many things. It's such a huge area. And one strategy probably can't do it justice. But what we've done here is we've set some realistic goals and targets and actions for this council to take to protect the biodiversity that we have got, and hopefully to enhance it as well. We are the Green Wedge Shire. We're so proud of our biodiversity. It's the reason that so many people choose to live here. And I think we are incredibly blessed to have the wonderful flora and fauna that make Nillumbik so unique. This strategy, I think, is really one of the key strategies of this term of council that we've developed. But it will be up to the next council to implement it. It needs to be funded. It needs to be actioned. And it will be up to the next council to make sure that that's done. It won't be easy to find the money to fund some of the actions in this strategy, but it's something that we have to do, and the community have shown to us that it's a priority. And so hopefully the next council will take that on board and do some wonderful things with this strategy. I'd like to thank the officers for all the work that they've put into putting this strategy together, and also the community for the incredibly valuable input that we've received from community members, as well as our Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee that's helped to bring this strategy to the stage that it's at, and so that we can endorse it today. And with that, I will put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the leasing and licensing policy. So I'll look for a motion. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. That Council 1 notes that 2 submissions were received in relation to the draft leasing and licensing policy, and that these submissions were considered and submitters were provided with the opportunity to be heard by the Planning and Consultation Committee on the 11th of June 2024. 2, adopts the leasing and licensing policy with the minor amendments highlighted in red in attachment 2, following a review of the written and verbal submissions. 3, requests that officers write to all respondents to the public engagement to express Council's gratitude for their contribution and to advise them of Council's resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne. Councillor Eyre.
Thank you. This policy aims to establish a consistent, transparent, equitable and fair process for the administration of leases and licences for properties owned and managed by the Shire. If we were to look in attachment 2 in the policy, it formalises Council's current practice, which includes agreed objectives and principles for leasing and licensing, types of tenure and relevant policy legislation, tenant categories which determine the fee structure and obligations, consistent terms and conditions of agreements, expression of interest process for vacant council assets, and that's a really important one, set eligibility criteria for tenants, formalise a council position in relation to community tenants refusing to sign agreements but continue to occupy council assets, and clarify responsibilities for council and tenants, including maintenance, risk and insurance. It's really important to be able to have a strategy or a policy that actually outlines the processes, not only for officers to follow, but for the community, so that they can also see how it applies to them and their community groups or their organisation that's in a council building. So it ensures council's ongoing support for non-profit organisations and community groups that provide valuable services to the Nillumbik community. The importance of this policy will mean that all community groups needing a home will be treated equally, not the loudest or biggest or the first to ask. It covers financial hardship, gambling, vacant land lease to residents, residential maintenance, repair and insurance, as I've already covered. And it is clear for everyone to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Payne.
Yes, I'm in agreement with Councillor Eyre. This is about consistency and fairness and clarity. We have to have policies we can agree on, explain and apply, and that's what this does.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I do. I do agree that having leasing and licence policies are really important for the various reasons that we've already heard from councillors tonight. I do have a concern for two clubs in my area. In Edendale Ward, the Eltham Redbacks Football Club and the North Eltham Wanderers Cricket Club have both been working with council officers for quite a long time to try and come to an agreement regarding their leases, and I'm optimistic that those lease agreements will be able to be achieved in the short term. There are a number of reasons for why those agreements have been I suppose not achieved. So I don't want to go into the details, but what I think is really important is that in this policy there is a statement that says capital works will not occur or be approved to occur at a property where an existing tenant doesn't have an agreement in place. It does go on to say that capital works associated with safety or compliance are exempt and may, in circumstances where short-term funding for works is available, happen. My concern is that I don't want to see these two great clubs penalised because they don't have an agreement in place as per the attachments that have been put forward with this policy, and it is out of concern for that I am reluctant without provision being made for those two clubs to be exempt from this until they've got an agreement in place.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors?
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor
I'd just like to point out that whether there's a lease or not, it's not going to affect applications for funding. So I just wanted to get that point across.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre, right of reply.
Thank you. By having a policy, it means that everyone is treated fairly, consistent. There will be fairness and clarity for everyone, and I think that's the most important point that's here is that there is a process to follow. Each club, organisation or group will have that same fair and consistent process as they go through works or changes or renewal of their leases or when vacant properties come up and how they are to be leased out and who gets to actually get those leases. I know there's so many groups in our community that need more space or actually want their own home, and I would love to know that this process will allow that to happen in a fair manner. I understand that officers are meeting with those groups and have been frequently meeting with those groups. So I think that once this is endorsed, well, I'm hoping that it is endorsed, that things will be able to be clarified for those clubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? And that is carried. The next item is the Economic Development Advisory Committee membership recommendation. I will look for a motion. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'm happy to move that. Thank you. The motion is that Council endorses the 12 recommended applicants listed for the membership of the Nillumbik Economic Development Advisory Committee. There is a confidential attachment. We will go through that later with who these 12 people are that have been successful. Point 2 is that we resolve that the successful applicants be named. Point 3, acknowledge and thank all community members who submitted applications for membership of the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And 4th, lastly, resolves that the applications and assessments in attachments 2 and 3 remain confidential on the grounds specified in the definition of confidential information in the relevant section of the Local Government Act 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I'd just like to say again, with all of our advisory committees, wonderful work provided by members of the community to share their expertise and skills. With the Economic Development Advisory Committee, really we need a strong, healthy, thriving local economy. This looks at all sorts of different businesses in the Shire, from small business to home business to retail. On the Economic Development Advisory Committee, we have representatives from the Hurstbridge Traders, the Diamond Creek Traders, the Eltham Chamber of Commerce and the Nillumbik Tourism body. Then there are also representatives from other parts of the community. There's also a youth representative, which is really important to be able to encourage young people to look at business opportunities. Also in our Shire, recently we've had the Northern Business Achievement Awards, which was fabulous to see local businesses being put forward there. There was a young man, and in my haste I've forgotten his name. Hopefully you can help me, Mayor, with that. But the other 2 businesses that were put forward were the Datner Group, who are a fabulous business here in Eltham that do global transformational work in leadership, particularly with women, and also a Fitting Connection, another local business that is trying to make change in the textile industry, within textiles, and the climate impact in reusing textiles. So there's lots that can be looked at with economic development, and we need jobs in our Shire. We need jobs to enable people to have local jobs. We need jobs to be a thriving local economy, to be able to have places for people to shop locally. Council and the Economic Development Committee work hard to look at what are the options, how can we come up with strategies to help. I think the feedback of these advisory committees is really important. And, I acknowledge the effort and the time that is put into these groups. We've had people in the past that have been involved in education, in retail, in agriculture, across the gamut of businesses that you can imagine here in the Shire. So I look forward to working with the new advisory committee. We have an upcoming advisory meeting coming up in August, and as the chair of the Economic Development Advisory Committee, it's great that we have these opportunities for people to participate, to help council with its strategy, because without places to go and shop, we don't have a local community. We're all going out of the Shire, and there's kind of really a net export of jobs at the moment, with most people going out of Nillumbik to work. So we want to be able to ensure there are ways that people can earn money here, spend their money here, and look at all of the different types of consumers that we've got in this area, from young people through to older people. So thank you again to the staff that work with these volunteers, and to these volunteers for putting forward their expertise, those of the past and those into the future. I think I might leave it at that. And thank you to all those who put their applications forward. It would be great if we had enough spots for everybody, but with managing these groups, if there are too many people, it's not too effective. So that's why we do have limits with 12 in this instance.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to add a couple of things. basically, these committees give people from every avenue of the Shire a voice in what happens in the EcoDev space. And I'd just like to correct Councillor Duffy on one point. It's not really about shops and shopping. It is a little bit, but Nillumbik, we've got a massive amount of home businesses as well as agriculture. Yes, you're right. So it gives these groups an opportunity to have input in areas where a lot of them are in the rural areas and they don't really get a say. So it's great to see that happening. And I love seeing the youth. We've got some amazingly talented youth in the EcoDev space who've done world-breaking things I can't announce at the moment. But I'd also like to thank Tanya Trezor, because since she's come on board, this space has just exploded. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this new advisory committee, or not new, but new, recently established new committee coming together. It certainly will help direct the work that council does in supporting our local business. And as Councillor Egan said too, we've got lots of home-based businesses, and as Councillor Duffy said, lots of shops and businesses that don't just work here but travel all over Melbourne. So looking forward to seeing the support that goes towards that as well. But I've been to many of the events run by our EcoDev team in supporting our local businesses, and they've been absolutely amazing with guest speakers, with networking opportunities, with hearing about how other businesses do things so that they can share their knowledge. All of those kind of things are all what makes for a stronger business community in Nillumbik. Can't wait to see the committee back and running. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously, and Councillor Duffy will list the successful applicants.
Thank you. So the successful applicants are Malcolm Cock, Oriana Edmonds, John Gawn, Wayne Kinraid, Katrina Naish, Luke Marshall, Sarah Pennells, Patricia Weinberg, Nicole Staveley, Simon Moaga, Janmali Trigambi, and Hudson Brown. My apologies if I've mispronounced any of those names.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. The next item is the tender report for the Diamond Creek Tennis Court resurfacing, courts 3 and 4. And I'll look for a motion. Councillor Perkins.
Thank you, Chair. I move that Council accepts the tender submitted by the preferred tenderer for the sum to be advised, plus the contingency inclusive of GST, and enter into the following contract, number, title, term, options as per the papers, the rest as per the papers actually, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, noting that 7 is that resolves that the tenderer or the preferred tenderer be named. So once we conclude debate, we can name the tenderer. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Perkins.
There was a rush to second that.
I think Councillor Duffy had her hand up first.
Thank
At
you.
the
I had my
corner of
hand
my
up
eye.
there rather than your voice, Karen, so maybe we could both jointly do this. So, yeah,
I
happy
usually
to
go by
second it.
hands.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Councillor Duffy. Councillor Perkins.
So Diamond Creek Tennis Club, great tennis club in Diamond Creek. Large club, lots of members, currently under a bit of duress at the moment because 4 of their 6 courts are unusable, and they have been for some time. There's been a concerted effort in terms of advocacy and a lot of work from both club committee members, club members generally, and officers to try to get some funding to repair those 4 courts and make them usable so they can go back to their 6 courts. Unfortunately, the costs associated with repairing the 4 courts was a lot more than was thought and considered and budgeted for. So this tender really looks to repair 2 of the 4 courts, courts 3 and 4. Courts 5 and 6 will remain unusable in the short term. But it is good news, and the club are across what's happened, that there is a budget shortfall. The costs associated with repairing courts 3 and 4 is a lot more than anticipated. So awarding this tender will get 50% of the work done effectively. Hopefully there'll be some money left over. Hopefully in the next budget, council or the new council might consider getting the other 2 courts up and going. But this tender does at least do some of the work, probably 50% of the required work. So I'm pleased with that, and hopefully we don't use the full amount of the contingency. The tender, there's a tender price plus there's a contingency of 20%. Hopefully if things go well, we might be able to keep that contingency and then roll that over, and then any leftover funds into doing courts 5 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Councillor Duffy?
Thank you. Yes, I'm very happy that this is going ahead. I support Councillor Perkins. Back in 2022, Councillor Perkins and I, Councillor Eyre and other councillors went out to the Diamond Creek Tennis Club on their invitation. We were there with Danielle Green, the local MP at the time, and Vicky Ward. We saw firsthand the difficulties that the people of this club face in trying to play tennis, in trying to run a tennis club, and the passion behind the members and the executive. So it is wonderful when we get to a day like today, when we can actually put out a tender and commit money to works that are desperately needed. It's a shame that it's not everything that needs to be done, but it is great that it is a beginning because, you know, we know the importance that these clubs have in the health and well-being of people within the Shire, places to belong, places to play sport, to be connected, and for mental health. So there is a lot of positive impact that this money will have, but most importantly, just the positive energy that goes into assisting the volunteers that keep this club going. So, you know, for that alone, it's worth its weight in gold. So I look forward to being able to have a hit of tennis on the new tennis courts with the people of Diamond Creek and the hardworking committee of the Diamond Creek Tennis Club in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Any other councillors? Councillor Eyre?
Yes, only to support what's already been said, but to say that it was a wonderful opportunity to go down and meet with the club on numerous occasions, actually. It was while I was mayor, and to see the courts firsthand. So it's fantastic that we were able to receive funds from the Victorian Government Sport and Rec funding program, and that council was able to contribute to get courts 3 and 4 up and running. So I'm hoping that there will be some funds to roll over so that the other courts can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. And Councillor Perkins will name the preferred tenderer and amount.
The preferred tender is Turf One Proprietary Limited. The sum of the tender sum is $371,324.25, and there's a 20% contingency, which is $74,264.85, which is a contingency inclusive of GST. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. The next item is the tender report for upcoming contracts during the election period, and I'll look for a motion. Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Happy to move that motion, Mayor. So the motion is that Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer to finalise and execute the contract documentation for the list of provided tenders below. This is because we are going into an election period and councillors
If you could just read
won't
the
be
motion
able
for
to do
now.
that. Oh,
We'll
yes,
explain it
thank you.
afterwards.
Can we also go down the list because there is an inclusion of an extra project in that? So rather than reading out all of the lists in here, I'll just include the amendments to the original motion that was advertised in the agenda. So included in this tender report will be the Eltham North Reserve car park construction. That will be a capital works program. Further, we'll go down to say, point 4, notes that there are 2 capital works projects listed and that any variations that exceed the agreed approved budget will require a further council resolution. tender number 2324-048, Herbert's Lane Play Space, construction which has an approved budget of $360,000, and tender 2425-010, Eltham North Reserve Car Park, construction which has an approved budget of $650,000. The rest of the motion is as per the papers.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Yes, with the upcoming elections happening, there will be a new council that will come in on the 26th of October. There's a period before that time for those at home that are viewing, wondering why this is happening. In that time, the CEO will be responsible, and we're wanting to make sure that he has all that he needs to be able to appoint the tenders so that this important work of council can continue during that caretaker period. In particular, I'm really excited to see on this list of works the car park expansion at the Eltham North Reserve. This will particularly help with the overflow of parking that's been busting out onto the streets in Eltham North along Wattle Tree Road over the last few years. It's been 4 years almost that I've been advocating for this, and it's just exciting to see that this work is being put forward for tender so that construction can take place, and the Eltham Redbacks and the North Eltham Wanderers Cricket Club will be able to see the benefits of that, but more so all of the people in the community that live around who have been writing in over the years saying, can you please help? There are cars parked everywhere. That's one of the things that I'm particularly excited about. There are other projects in the mix that I was hoping we could see here about the various playground upgrades and the car park at the Adventure Playground being upgraded, but that is to come forward at a later stage, and that will be announcements for the next council to make. This tender report is exciting for the works that will be progressing. I won't talk about the other projects, just wanted to highlight that great one at the Eltham North Reserve for the people who have been affected by that and who will look forward to the benefits. The whole community will enjoy that. So thank you to the people that are involved in the tender process, our procurement team and the staff that do the works to make this happen.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Perkins.
Yeah, just like to support everything that Councillor Duffy has said, and just for my purposes, highlight Herbert's Lane Play Space in Diamond Creek in my ward, Alice Wood. Great to see that go ahead. Councillors probably wonder where that $360,000 come from, because it wasn't anything that we discussed in the budget. And that $360,000 comes from developer contributions. So that whole area was in a development plan overlay. So when the subdivisions went through, there's monies put aside for community infrastructure, which in this case included the Herbert's Lane Play Space construction. So that whole of that $360,000 has come from developer contributions, nothing from rates, so to speak. The other one, it's very happy to see council purchasing the combination vac hydro excavation truck. That's been trialled, and that's been a huge success. I know Councillor Egan has commented on it numerous times. It's very effective in cleaning drains, particularly the rural ones and the urban ones. So yeah, I'd like to see, great to see that being done. And the fact that the tip truck, the trucks we tend to be buying now are hybrid, which helps in our climate action plan targets, meeting those targets. So very supportive of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the procurement policy update for 2021 to 2025. I'll look for a motion. Councillor Payne.
Happy to move the motion, Mayor Ramtran, that Council 1 adopts the Procurement Policy 21 to 25 at version 1 July 2024, and 2 makes the updated Procurement Policy 2021 to 2025 available for public inspection on the Council's website.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne.
The update to this policy is basically so that we can be more selective in our procurement processes, particularly when it comes to working with First Nations groups. We have a procurement policy that currently means that we have to put it out to tender, but in some cases we need to be selective. And in this case, working with First Nations groups is something that we aim to do. And also EV trucks, we have to be selective as the technology and prices change in that area. So this updates our procurement policy and means that we are ready for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan.
Councillor Payne has covered it all beautifully. I concur.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Egan. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. The next item is the instrument of appointment and authorisation under the Planning and Environment Act 1987. I'll look for a motion. Councillor Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the motion, one, that Council, in the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 1474 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolves that A, Nillumbik Shire Council staff referred to in the Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning and Environment Act 1987, Attachment 1, be appointed and authorised as set out in the instrument. 2, the Common Seal of Council be affixed to the instrument. And 3, the instrument comes into force immediately after the Common Seal of Council is affixed to the instrument and remains in force until Council determines to vary or revoke it, which, at the rate we're going, will probably be next month.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. It may well be. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Payne. Councillor Egan.
As many of you who watch Council, and I see Jim Connors in the audience, will know that this is something that comes up on a regular basis when we have new staff, and I have no doubt that this is because of our new Head of Planning, Frank, who is sitting over there. So welcome, Frank. It's nothing more than administrative. It means that Frank and other new people can carry out their business as usual every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Egan. Councillor Payne.
Yes, I concur right back at you. Thank you, Councillor Egan. And also to say that we have enough instruments to get a fully functioning orchestra right now. I think there'd be upwards of 40 people with the instruments there. So bring it on.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Any other councillors? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. And the next item is the informal meetings of councillors' records for the 30th of July 2024.
I can do
Councillor
that.
Eyre.
Thank you. That Council, in accordance with item 20 of Council's governance rule, meeting procedures, receives the informal meetings of councillors' record in attachment 1 for the meetings held.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Perkins. Councillor Eyre.
Yes, thank you. Don't normally speak to this, but it's important that community know that these are the meetings that councillors attend, obviously, and they are listed to meet our governance rules. So that's really it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. Councillor Perkins. Any other councillors? Put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. There are no notices of motion, no delegates' reports, no supplementary or urgent business, and no confidential reports, and so I'll close the meeting at 8:07 p.m. Thank you, everyone.